It's the intellectual line cook, and I'm fucking speaking. I know I'm a little late to the party to talk about the death of Robert Mugabe. Now, me, no, I'm not showing no sympathy for no dictator. But Robert Mugabe was more than just this bad guy that was painted by the United States and Great Britain as this evil, horrible, like this almost black Hitler-esque type of person. Did you know his name is officially Sir Robert Mugabe? So before you hear anything about the BBC, just keep that in mind, folks. He was Sir Robert Mugabe, which means he was knighted by the British Empire. And it's still stuck after the collapse of the British Empire. When he was killing those people, when they talk about that, but guess who helped put him in where he's at? The British and the Americans. So then, why is it all of a sudden, like in the late 2000s and in the early 2010s, people were throwing all kind of salt, saying, well, you got to resign. So, making him out to be this evil person. And when they put sanctions on him, remember, the United States. The United States, when we put sanctions on a country, it's to bring it to its knees. It's not to bring about justice. Don't ever let the media fool you. Say, well, we're putting sanctions, to bring about freedom. No, what that really means in code is to cause civil unrest and political instability to create the conditions favorable for the results that the United States wants in the change of its government. It's the same thing that's going on in Venezuela. Same thing. If someone's a fucking, and speaking of Venezuela, how can Nicolas Maduro be this dictator and he was elected with nearly 67% of the vote? Now let's think about this. When you have North Korea, being when Kim Jong Un calls himself having elections, even when Kim Jong Il, his father, called himself having elections, and they were like 99 or 100%. Now that's a true dictatorship. Every vote is documented. They know the name of that person, everything. They're not going to vote, really openly vote against that man. They don't want the secret police to be like this. Mr. Hung. So, you voted against our industrialist league. No, Nicolas Maduro never did no shit like that. But this is about brown and black people not kissing ass to white supremacy. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I have my bone to pick with so-called brown people too, because there is a racial totem pole. It does exist, whether we want to acknowledge that shit or not. But anyway, the moment Robert Mugabe began taking back the land, because the people of his country had the nerve for his black people to control their own fate and their own destiny. And land is linked to culture, it's linked to wealth. See, they had no problem with him being a so-called, murderous dictator. As long as they were able to have access to that mineral wealth, and as long as they were able to grow food and feed other white people living in Africa. See, I had no problem with that. The moment that place says, no, we want this wealth so we can create wealth for ourselves and our own people. That's when Robert Mugabe became the dictator. That's when he became Hitler. That's when he became the bad guy. Now, I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not going to be singing his praises and proposing we build him, but he did stand on his own 2 feet as a black man. And that is the real reason. See, white people have no problem with you doing what you do as long as you serve their interests. As long as you let them scoop up the mineral wealth and all that stuff. Just like the whites had no problem with Batista being in Cuba prior to the Castro Revolution. They had no problem with that shit. They had no problem with Cubans starving and being fucked up. They had no problem with that, because guess what? The United States was able to use Cuba as a base of operation to get money on the low during Prohibition. See, they had no problem with that shit. Better go research and look that shit up. You better look up Batista. You better look up what that prior dictator did in Cuba. You better look that shit up. When white people have control and they let you get a crumb, you best believe that person's a servant. See, I look at who the United is talking crap about. See, the dictators that they don't talk smack about, you best believe they're under control. The media might, but again, that's part of the subterfuge. Is to give the appearance that there's some fair stuff. Let's look at Saudi Arabia, for instance. Saudi Arabia has more human rights violations than any other country in the Middle East, but yet Iran is the enemy. What did Iran do? Back in 1979, Iran took their country back in the Iranian Revolution. That was revenge for the overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh back in 1953, who wanted to nationalize Iran's oil fields. And the U.S. and the Great Britain had a problem with that because they saw that as affecting their bottom line. So, well, we can't let that, oh, God forbid, we can't let brown people benefit from socialism ever. Because if they get any kind of benefit, that means they can come up. Same thing with a lot of black African countries. Yeah, the United States has a huge foothold in Africa, but slowly and surely they're losing it. So the United States is kind of freaking out, and like Robert Mugabe, you got Julius Malema over there in South Africa, saying the same thing, that hey, we need to get these people off our land where black people control the resource. It can come up. It can have things like that. Remember, it wasn't about Robert Mugabe being it wasn't about being a killer. Oh yeah, he was a killer. Oh yes, but they didn't. Again, the Americans never had a problem with that. Even the legacy, like the Rhodes University, the Rhodes Scholarship. Who was this first white supremacist leader, in Zimbabwe, which they renamed Rhodesia. Now, even these so-called liberals, like Rachel Maddow, she's proud to admit that she got a Rhodes Scholarship. Now, if liberals supposedly care and love about black people so much, why would you want to accept something like that? Hell, I wouldn't. But it's, again, liberalism and conservatism are two wings of the same racist bird. Best believe it when I tell you that. So don't ever let white people fool you. Whenever they talk smack about a dictator, that's when you better, say, is he really that bad? There's a history. The history is there. And Mugabe is just simply a part of that history of white supremacists and white media and rich media, and when the government all working together. Because they'll defame anyone who will not let the American and British government have their cake and eat it too. Anybody who's brown or black and stands on their own 2 feet, they're targets. Just pay attention when the media tells you something. Anyway, Internet, that's just a thought. I thought I'd talk about it. You have a good day.